Hamas needs to stop their genocidal attempts against Israel immediately, and Iran needs to be held accountable for what they're doing.
As an ambassador yourself, are you concerned that embassies in third countries, like the Iranian embassy in Syria, are now legitimate targets? Is that a precedent that you could support?
I'll make a separation, because what we've seen in Syria, it's an IRGC headquarters, which is one of the malign agencies of Iran, sponsoring and spreading terrorism internationally. So it does not enjoy the privileges of a diplomatic entity.
So you're saying this was not an embassy?
What we do see is that Iran has been threatening, and not just Iran, terror organizations like Hamas, like Hezbollah, they have been threatening our embassies and diplomatic missions around the world. They're responsible for the attack on our embassy in Argentina years ago, on Jewish institutions. They are constantly trying to attack us everywhere in the world. So that's what we mean when we say that the threat is on all of us, unfortunately. Until
this missile attack, I mean, it was a high-risk gamble that Israel took in going for the Iranian embassy in Syria in the way that you did.
Again, I'll just remind you that in that building in Syria, what we've seen is headquarters of IRGC, which is one of the terror infrastructures of Iran, with people who are terrorists responsible not just for the
You don't deny
October.
carrying out that attack, which has left us in this position where you and your allies had to shoot down 300 missiles on Saturday night.
If you're dragged into the narrative of who did it, you're dragged into the story of Iran. Iran claims that this is a tit for tat. Iran didn't join, supposedly, the war on Saturday. Iran has been directly involved in the war in Gaza for the past 193 days, and they've been involved in the region for years and decades. They've been spreading their terrorism for years,
but this
and
attack
they don't
on the
shy away
embassy, it takes it to another level. And
when you
it
say
puts
that
your people in further danger. I mean, I was listening to people speaking about hearing the sirens on Saturday night, wondering when these missiles were going to land and where they were going to land. That response from Iran was provoked by Israel.
I reject that accusation, because what we see is a direct involvement of Iran for years. If you're dragged into the narrative as if somehow it started and now they're so-called retaliating, then you're dragged into the narrative as if they're a responsible entity, which they are not. And it's not just about us. When we talk about the Islamic Republic of Iran and what they're doing internally for their people, and we see it with the violation of human rights, with the hijab manifestations, we need to support the people. So I'll separate the people from the regime. Okay. And the regime has been sponsoring and spreading terror for years.
Well, there was a representative from the Iranian embassy on the News at 1 yesterday here on RTE, and he said that many Iranians have been killed in Syria and elsewhere by Israel. He said in the past 6 months and up to this point, Iran had showed restraint. But when their diplomatic mission was violated, they had to retaliate. And he made the point, if the position was reversed, and you might respond to this, if Iran had targeted an Israeli embassy, how would your country
Iran is targeting Israeli diplomatic missions, Israeli buildings, Israeli infrastructure, Jewish infrastructure. Iran is doing it for years, directly and through its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, Shiite militias in Iraq. So Iran has been doing it. To refer to it cynically, the people who were killed in different countries are directly involved in terrorism and spreading ammunition around the region in order to destabilize the region. So to understand or to listen to what the so-called representative is saying face value, I think we need to be more critical of what he's saying. And what we see is that Iran bluntly calls for the elimination of the state of Israel. So you have a UN member that does not shy away from threatening another UN member. And this is why we need to the
Okay, but
international
you're sitting
community
here
to
as a
comment.
representative of a country which is now looking at 30,000 people dead in Gaza. And your mission is to destroy Hamas. We know that.
But also the number is not correct.
But if 50% of those people are terrorists, and that would be unimaginable that 50% of a population are terrorists. That means 15,000 innocent people, including women and children, are dead as a result of Israeli actions in Gaza.
There is no disagreement that this war is a tragic war. There is no disagreement that this should end, and it could end if all the kidnapped 133 people are returned immediately without any conditions, and Hamas's threats are eliminated. So this can all end. We all agree that this is tragic, but we need to ask ourselves why. And the cynical playbook of Hamas that are using their civilians, inflating numbers, the fact that they give numbers and the world just repeats that. We know that's what they say. They even admitted that about 10,000 of these so-called numbers might not be correct. The statistics don't add up.
The UN, the World Health Organization, all agree with those numbers. In fact, they say
they're repeating
could be
Hamas's
far more.
number because we don't have another number.
Well, but you won't allow journalists in there, and you won't allow humanitarian aid in there, even if we accept your arguments on terrorism and on Hamas on face value. Why won't you do that?
We don't want to see more people, more innocent people get killed. And the tragic incident when people get killed,
so journalists,
we evaluate
humanitarian
all
workers,
of that.
none of those people are safe in Gaza because of the actions of Israel.
Because of Hamas. When we don't condemn Hamas for what they're doing in civilian infrastructure, like hospitals, what we've seen in hospitals in Gaza is shocking. Yet I don't hear a lot of people here in Ireland talk about it. And I understand the pro-Palestinian sentiment, and I understand the concern for the Palestinian people. But not speaking about Hamas's atrocities towards its own population, that doesn't benefit Palestinians, let alone Israelis. But if you want to help the Palestinian people in Gaza, they need to be freed from Hamas as well. We all agree Hamas does not want coexistence, not just with us, also with the Palestinian Authority. They don't want coexistence, and they need to be freed.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in. That is the Israeli ambassador to Ireland, Dana Erlich. We'll take a break.